Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast.
Today on the show, I interviewed Janis Commentz. Janis has been painting and drawing for as long as she can remember in her lifetime, and today we chat about how Paris and France in general changed her life for the better when it came to painting. So welcome to the show, Janis. I've been following your work for a long time. You've sent me some of your beautiful calendars and paintings, and I'm so happy to finally talk to you today.
Oh, I am absolutely delighted to be here.
You are a very talented painter and artist, and I was reading that you've been painting and drawing since you can remember. Like, when did you first start taking an interest in art?
Because my mother was an artist, my uncle was an artist, my grandmother was very creative, the art supplies were always there. I've got a painting my mother did of me in my high chair with a little pencil, seriously, and I'm maybe 8 months old. I began drawing early. I've been very fortunate. I'm an only child. My parents, they put up, and this is great advice, they put up a blackboard, a door horizontally painted with blackboard paint when I was like 2 or 3, and gave me colored pencils to start drawing big. So that would be my first real memories, and maybe we remember more through photographs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And so were your parents both artists too?
My mother was. My dad was the art supporter. He was so sweet. He would build frames. He would do anything. And he was always very supportive of me as well.
So when did you first start really pursuing it as a career? Like, you went to art school and you said, okay, I'm going to be an artist. You never thought you'd be anything else but.
Well, when I was young, I really wanted to be a teacher and teach school.
Wow.
I really, really did. And in fact, I used to drag the little boy across the street over and play school and teach him his ABCs and numbers. That was when I was in the first grade. I very much wanted to go into teaching, but I always thought art was something that you did. You know what I mean? I was doing it all along. I had a little stop my last year of college, and I thought maybe I wanted to go into commercial art. You don't know. You begin to wonder, do I really want to teach crazy teenagers? However, my student teaching experience, and it was teaching English. I majored in English, British Lit, and painting. But it was such a phenomenal experience to work with young kids that I was very gung-ho about getting a teaching job. So teaching, I did teach art and English, so I was always working on it. But 10 years ago, I retired from teaching and said, that's it. I want to pursue art full time.
That's great. And how brave of you to do that, because so many people are afraid to quit their 9 to 5 to do that full time.
Well,
was that a major challenge?
Cushion, but yeah.
And so when you first started to work full time as an artist, like, did it take some time to really like build a following and start selling?
Because we do live in a small community, we're near Joshua Tree, which is becoming very trendy at this point. I even meet people in Europe that have heard of Joshua Tree, but it was not such a big place back, especially when I moved here. I joined every art association that was in the area, which means that you are taking your work in and out every month. You're volunteering in the gallery. You're working hard. You're right to network and get to know people. Yes, and it was a lot of networking. In 2016, I was gallery director of our local gallery. And that was a learning experience. And it was also one of those things that I had always wanted to do. At the end of my year, it was a volunteer job. I said, no, I don't want to do it again. But I put my heart and soul into it and learned a lot.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's all about the people you meet, right?
It is. It is. And the people that encourage you.
For sure. That can help you sell, that can help people find who you are. I mean, I know like networking was the biggest key to my career too. So that's great that you just jumped right in like that.
In, gosh, almost 10 years ago, a group of painters, we decided that we would start meeting every month and critique. We wanted somebody that would not just look at our paintings and say, oh, that's pretty. We wanted positive, serious critique, and then to share. And we started meeting, as I said, 10 years ago, and we vowed that we would show together whenever the opportunity arose. And we've shown about 5 times. We've got another show in January. During COVID, we couldn't meet, but we've just begun meeting again. And that supportive friendship, really helps. And with people that I admire, and we always share all kinds of information.
And when people get good critiques, like how can people better critique each other? Like you said, you want constructive criticism. Like what kind of critiques do you do each other?
I remember one, painting a friend. She said, well, what's happening between the girl's back and her rock? It just doesn't look right. You need some light coming through there, or, that kind of thing. We would actually look at a painting and say, well, I like this part. Recently, I heard a good technique for critiquing, and she called it a critique sandwich. But you first point out something that you like about the work, because that helps. Then you give constructive, instruction. It would be a little better if you this, and then you follow up again with, well, but you are doing something good. So it's like 2 good and 1 bad.
Yeah, that's so smart. The French always make fun of us for doing that as Americans, and work in general. We always give a nice compliment, then the problem, then another compliment. And so talk about your Paris story. Like, when did you first come to France? How did it influence your work? Tell us about that.
Well, I had been to Paris a long time ago when I was first out of college for a very, very brief visit. It was one of those 6-week tours where you go all over Europe and you end up in Paris. And I was with my parents, so that was a different kind of trip. It was fun. And one of the odd memories that I have was at nighttime being on these very strange escalators in a modern building, which I realize now is the Pompidou Center. It had to have been. But in the meantime, because I majored in British Lit, I went to England 3 times, and I really was a hardcore Anglophile. But I never had that desire to paint when I returned. In fact, the last trip I made, I came home and I buried myself in magical realism of Latin American literature, which is totally all right. That lead up to in 2018, so it's kind of recent, I was going to take an art workshop with a friend who was going to host it in the Dordogne. He was going to teach architectural drawing on the iPad, and the whole itinerary was planned out. It looks great. I got my passport, I was making plans, and his class didn't make. By then I was ready. I was just like, I want to go. And I had a friend who had lived in France for 2 years and worked at the embassy in Los Angeles. And she said, oh, this itinerary is wonderful. She said, you can go. She said, you can rent a car. You can drive. Which I had done in England on the wrong side of the road, or on the other side of the road. So I decided I could, and I went by myself. And I had to add Paris, and why Paris? Fashion. I've always been interested in fashion. I grew up thinking that Yves Saint Laurent was it. Rive Gauche is my favorite perfume. When I trace back a lot of my life, I go, well, I did fall in love with France and the Impressionists at an early age. So,
yeah, definitely. I think it's funny when you were in England, you were really inspired me.
Right. My mother tells me that she took me to a big Monet exhibit while I was still in the stroller in Los Angeles.
No way.
So I guess my little brain was getting this stuff. It was the Rouen Cathedral paintings.
Oh, wow. It was absorbing all of that. Good job, Mom.
I was. so,
How was it like traveling around France alone? Were you nervous? Did you still paint?
well, what I did, the first trip, it did take me 3 days before I was brave enough to set out with my little paints and go start sketching, you know.
Yeah.
And on that third day, I said, I need to go or I won't ever do it. So I was really determined to try to look Parisian. Ha ha. I mean, that's always a joke, but I tried. On the subway, I wouldn't get my phone out. I'd keep my mouth shut and wear my sunglasses and try to look serious because I'm not normally serious, and I heard people don't laugh and smile at each other. You have to be that way. But I got
Yeah.
my little market bag from, I always pronounce it incorrectly, Carrefour, the big supermarket. But I figured,
Yeah.
okay, if I have my paints in that market bag, in front of my purse, I'll look kind of like I fit in. And I had a very compact set of watercolors and my sketch pad. My first day, I went to the Jardin de Luxembourg and painted the palace
Wow.
and sat there for a long, long, long time working on the architecture. And I loved what I did. And I never stopped.
And so walk me through the process when you're painting. Like, how do you choose what you're going to paint? Do you have to take a walk before? Like, where does it all start?
You really do need to walk around and kind of get a view, of what you're going to paint. And because I teach plein air outdoor painting classes, sometimes we even now I didn't do this so much in Paris, but we'll make a little viewfinder, which is just a cardboard frame to look through to see, like a camera frame, what you're going to put in your composition. However, that day I just sat down in one of those cute little green chairs and began sketching. And my pad that I took with me to Europe both times was about 7x9, which was perfect, a little spiral watercolor pad. And I only took 30 pages each time. I was really weight conscious, and a good packer. I mean, I just took a little bit. I began sketching in pencil. It's good to do a little thumbnail sketch and decide what you're going to draw. But I did a lot of sketching, especially if it's got architectural details that need to be accurate to look like the place. And ordinarily, if I'm doing people, I don't like to erase, but I carry a mechanical pencil. I've learned to like a regular mechanical pencil, and they have an eraser. It's always sharp. You can do your sketch, then I watercolor it, and then I go over it in a little pen and ink. I think something about Paris just makes you want to pen and ink like everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. You're just inspired, and especially as an artist. I mean, do you find that a lot of people come up to you and want to talk to you about what you're painting, or do Parisians, they don't have time for you? They don't bother you?
A few do. That very first day, this young man, and he was from, somewhere in Latin America. I want to say Argentina or somewhere. He asked if he could take my picture. And I said, if you take a picture with my camera too. So I got a picture that first day. And he did want to talk. Sometimes it's children. I'll get a group of little children around me.
Oh, that's cute.
It's fun. A couple, the next year I went and I was in Monet's garden, and it was a little 8-year-old that came up, and she's the one who took my picture. I said, would you take my picture? She did. They do, they learn how to use those phone cameras pretty early.
Yeah, they're really good at it. So talk about your French press collection. You have a whole collection that is themed around French things, and talk a little bit about the collection.
Well, the first in 2018, when I came home, I did have all of these sketches in my notebook, and I made a calendar just for friends and family. I said, this will be kind of fun. I'll print this up. I've got enough little drawings and paintings that I can put in here. And people liked it. And I began thinking, I want to do something. I want to market something. If you're an artist, you're always trying to figure out what will be something a little broader than your area. Joshua Tree is wonderful, and it is still very popular. But worldwide, who doesn't like France?
Yeah.
The the photos are always appealing. And I started posting pictures on, Facebook, etc. And people came out of the woodwork, that I had known for decades. Oh, my mother went to France, when she was young, and she would love to have a calendar like that. So I began planning it, and ironically, I started at February 1st, 2020.
Wow.
Which is it's a good thing and a bad thing with COVID. COVID changed everything, but everybody was online. It was kind of fun that I had this online platform that I was planning. I also had an in-person workshop that March 2020. And, it was really weird to go, gee, I don't know if we should do this. We're going to be outside. You know how it went with those activities.
Yeah.
You realize this is not going to happen. So I keep adding to that collection. The last 2 years, obviously, I haven't been in France to paint my pictures for my calendar. I used some that I had painted there. I had a lot of pencil sketches that I had created there that I watercolored at home. And of course, I have thousands of pictures to draw from.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So a lot of times you can take pictures and work off of those.
Right, I do.
That's great. So you can combine mediums.
Yes. And I'd like to try some, more paintings. I've done a few paintings of France. The view from some of the castles in the Dordogne and a few Paris, and I don't want to do the typical Paris street scene. I mean, I think every painting should tell a story. They need to be your own work. As far as my desert paintings, people always go, oh, I can see your style. And it is funny. You kind of go, I have a style. So I want to make sure that what I do will not be, I'm not just trying to imitate all those Paris street scenes that I've seen. I mean, part of it is they're so lovely.
How do you try to do that, though? How do you make your stuff different? How do you try to get away from being the same?
Well, first of all, when you start painting, I mean, unless you're out and out copying, it is going to be your own thing. I like to paint from my own photographs, and I usually encourage people to use your own photographs. Paint what you know. So that's a good start. I'm trying to think. I probably only spent 3 or 4 weeks in Paris, and I'm sure eager to spend more time. But all that wandering around, teaches you a lot about the light and the color and the smell and the scents, and I try to incorporate that.
Yeah, that's great when you can add on and try to make people feel like they're actually there through your painting. And what do you hope to do with your artwork?
And it's funny when you sit here and say, what are my goals? I love painting. I have to admit, I've always wanted to have more people see them and sell. I'm happy to be have the opportunity with my French press to have those paintings out there. Also during 2020, there was a thing called Art Support Pledge. I don't know if you've heard of that. And it was started in England during COVID. And they said that for every, for example, $1,000 worth of art that you sell, you commit to buying the work of another artist for $200. Wow. So 20% of your earnings will go to someone else. And I started putting my paintings on, Instagram. This is for sale. So I sold a lot of art that way, which was kind of fun. And then I bought some and supported other artists. So the more you get it out there, it is rewarding. I still have the love of teaching, and I do teach small workshops locally, and I enjoy doing that. Because I had taught a few workshops prior to the COVID experience, when Zoom became popular, quite frankly, I asked workshop attendees from the past to be guinea pigs for my Zoom class so that I could learn how to do it. And a small core of us have been meeting every single week for 2 years.
Oh my goodness, that's cool.
And so we're friends. That's another support group. The time when the other group wasn't meeting, this group, and I've got a couple of overlapping people, we show what we're going to do. I sometimes have a little lesson. They kind of do what they're going to do anyway. They're grown-up ladies. You know how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they've done some wonderful things. And I've got friends. One that I've known since college. I knew she had that artist deep inside of her, and it's been so much fun to see that come out.
Yeah, it's always nice. We can see that you're actually helping somebody to learn what you do, like to learn to make art.
Somebody
And
recently used the term creative doula, and I thought, oh, that's a great term. It's like you're
I like
an artist.
And how do you define creativity?
And first of all, do I consider myself a creative? Absolutely. I really think we are created in God's image, and we have that desire to create within us. I think we do. I think everybody is creative in some way, and I know you talk about this, on every single show, but people who say, oh, I'm not an artist, I can't draw, I don't have a creative bone in my body, or I can't draw a straight line, or whatever crazy line they give you. They're so good at something else, whether it's writing or cooking or arranging food on the table. Anything where you are putting part of your, I think, heart and soul into it to create something pleasing.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a spur of the moment definition here.
Yeah, I like that. Anytime you're putting your heart and soul into something. That's beautiful. And how do you keep your ideas and creativity evolving and changing? I mean, sometimes you can just feel a little tired, like you feel uninspired. What do you do?
Well, meeting with other people helps a lot because we do have an exchange. And I don't paint every day. I might paint for 3 days straight, and then I'm kind of burned out and I have to do other things, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But visiting galleries, and that's something that we did when I was young. All of our vacations revolved around art colony places like Carmel-by-the-Sea in Northern California and Laguna. There's a big art festival. We went every year. So going to art galleries is always something I like to do. And looking at and reading, I think you need to know. I think knowing the art history and culture and so much about an artist keeps me going. And now that everything's on the computer, I mean, you could get lost in it. It's pretty bad, but
yeah. Dangerous. There's so much like at your fingertips that you can look at and find inspiration.
You have to, limited as we all know,
Yeah. Yeah, you have to get off as well because you can get lost.
Right.
And how do you feel about commissions? Some painters really don't enjoy commissions because they want to make what they want to make.
Commissions can be difficult. And they take time and energy, and I will take them, and I have kind of learned that I either want to take a photograph of the people or the subject myself, or meet the person is best, really see what they want. Sometimes I send out a price and a definition, and I never hear back from the person, and I go, that's fine, that was meant. So they are a little bit of a challenge. It's like a commercial art project. I do have a little tiny bit of a background. When I was in college, I did some commercial advertising, and I learned that you had to do projects that you would never do. You have to see it through the eye of the buyer. The people who come to me usually like my style, and that's what they want. And that's ideal because you're not going to paint something totally different. I remember doing a very large portrait for a man who had bought a small painting of mine. Oh, and he was funny. He had all kinds of questions. Who is that girl on the beach? She is in Carmel, and I live there, and there's not a lot of sunshine, and the sun is shining, and what is in her purse? And it was actually a picture of my friend, walking out at Point Lobos. I told him. But he wanted a really close-up of his face. Well, when I met him to photograph him, he was bald. And I'll be honest, I said, I see why you don't want the top of your head in the painting. I probably shouldn't have said that, but he wanted a It was 30 inches by 40 inches of his face. And he said, "This is for my children."
Wow.
I asked my kids if they wanted a painting that large of my face, and they said no.
Please don't do that.
But you know what? It was fun, and I did a lot of sketches of him. He sent photos. I did a painting of his eye. I did a painting of both eyes. I did several paintings to warm up. Probably way more than I needed to, but I wanted to get his face. And last year I had another one where I was painting a couple on the beach. From a photograph again. And at first, her husband was supposed to be a little blurry guy in the background. And then pretty soon she wanted him as big as she and the dog. And so I had to insert them, which is a little hard. I had to work at it. And if you're doing an animal, oh my gosh, I had to get the dog right because this beloved animal was now deceased. And,
Oh, no.
but apparently I did okay.
Well, you have happy customers. And what's the best advice you've ever been given?
And I think for sure be true to your own original ideas. But some other advice came. My uncle, who was an artist, was married to the most wonderful lady, my Aunt Eleanor, or Ellie, who passed away last year at the age of 97. And she too was a school teacher. So she was my role model all of my life. But she had been a journalism major, and she had a mantra where she said, oh gosh, and I had this written down somewhere, but she said to really look at your sources. How did she phrase it? Listen to all the evidence, research sources, and suspend judgment. That was her statement. Don't make a judgment right away. And I think that, especially when you look at our news today, look at, is it true? I think, is it true? Is it honest? Where are they getting this reference? I think that's the best advice that I have had in life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and as far as painting, again, you need to be true to your own voice, but you also need to study. You need to work hard too. You need to learn the skills.
The basics.
Drawing. I ran a life drawing group for about 8.5 years with life models, and we too met weekly, and I was the one arranging for the models. Blah blah blah, and it takes work, but I've been told that even if you're an abstract painter, a landscape painter, drawing from the human figure gives you a discipline that no other drawing gives you. If you paint a tree and they're lopsided, it looks okay. You paint a person and they're lopsided, they don't look okay.
Yeah, that's very true. And what are you most excited about for your future work?
Well, I always have a lot of projects going on, and that's kind of normal. I've had that in life. So I've got my French press enterprise going, and I have my workshops going. And I'd like to keep painting. I like doing larger paintings. I like doing a landscape with people in them, and that is always sort of a challenge to figure out how you're going to do that. So I'm dreaming up paintings that I want to do. I have been so involved in all these little projects that I'm painting often for a different purpose, and I need to paint just for me. In fact, I've suspended all my classes until September, which is nice. I've got like a little summer break. I do have a painting which sold a few years ago, and it's going to be in a movie, and I'm not supposed to talk about it. So I was really excited. That was one of those very strange, totally chancy things. I had this email from a person who said she was a movie director, and you think, what? And I kind of said, I am, I'm always a little bit cynical. I taught high school. How do I know it's you, And she sent me a photo of the painting she had bought and told me more about it. And I looked her up. And so that was kind of a funny little thing. Whether it will really publicize my art, I don't know. But I think in
Yeah.
this world, a lot of serendipitous things happen. And I have been very fortunate. I mean, I know I've been able to travel and I've been able to go to school, and not everybody has those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I was going to
Yeah.
mention one event the very first day I was in Paris. I had a friend, older friend, whose husband was related to Isadora Duncan, the dancer. And she
Yeah.
said, you have to look up. It was her brother's studio, Raymond Duncan's studio at 31 Rue de Seine. Are you familiar with that?
No.
You know what? John Baxter has even written about him in one of his books. So I'm just out merrily walking down to the Seine, and I didn't want to walk along the river because it was kind of touristy. Pretty soon I'm on the Rue de Seine. I swear. I go, oh my gosh, I'm here. And I looked at the building, and I asked a gallery person across the street. He had no idea what I was talking about. But, I saw someone going into this building, and I ran over and told her my story. And she said, oh, come on in. She goes, wander around. You can let yourself out. Go up these stairs, and you'll see the 400-year-old banister. I took a ton of pictures. Sent them right back to my friend that very day. She's in her 80s, so she was thrilled. And
Yeah.
I just was like, oh my gosh, this is just one of those moments that happened.
Yeah. And things like that can happen in Paris, where it's just like when you have a friend and you go check things out, it's like, wow, this is cool.
And as you know, being able to walk around Paris, I mean, well, first of all, my reaction was the French do not do ugly. Every corner, everything just had such beautiful detail. And being able to walk and just wander, you can't really do that in Los Angeles. Everything is so far.
Yeah.
It's a very, very different city. And I did study, where to go and where not to go. And I wasn't out at midnight wandering around by myself. So
it's really
took off. Mm-hmm.
And where can listeners connect with you online and check out your work and buy a piece?
Well, I am actually on pretty much every platform. My website is very easy. It's my name, Janis, spelled like Janis Joplin, Janis, Commentz, which is like comment with a Z, COMMENTZ. So it's at janiscommentz.com. I do write a blog on my website about every 6 weeks or so, where I will offer tips and various things. And there's a contact form on there where you can inquire about paintings. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. I'm actually even on YouTube. I've got a few videos.
All things. Very cool. I can't wait to see what you'll do next and to see this movie with your painting in it. And
let's hope it really comes out. I will let you know for sure.
We'll be keeping a lookout, and everybody go check out our website and support local artists. Thanks so much, Janis.
Oh, thank you, Crystal. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.